Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, morning, hello from whichever part you join us from. This is another episode of the Student Voice on Check the Hog. And first and foremost, Happy Africa Day. Today is a very pivotal and important day in the continent where we celebrate everything that is African. And this year's theme focuses on food. I also believe that as much as we celebrate our food, we should also celebrate young people, which is why I am African proudly one, and I have with me another African change maker who is leading the world from the rural communities. And today, our topic is something very sensitive. So I want everybody to join us with an open mind to be responsive and receptive to the information. We will be talking about mental health, but from a man's perspective. So Clement, how are you? It's so nice to have you here. Please quickly do a quick introduction for everybody that is listening so that they can know about you and the amazing work you do here in Africa.
Thank you, Oluwadamilola. I'm Clement from Cameroon. First of all, I'm a student. I'm a full-time student by profession. But aside from being a student, I do some work in my community because I feel as though I have the duty to take up to drive change in my community, to drive the change I want to see. So I run a aside from school, I run a nonprofit centered at empowering young people in Cameroon by giving them access to the skills and resources that they might need to also drive change in their communities. And I also do some work with the European Union as a member of the Youth Sounding Board, which is an advisory council for the European International Partnerships Commission. So yes, that's a bit about myself. When I'm not schooling or I'm not doing schoolwork or my passion project, I'm probably playing football or reading random things online.
I think you're just being, should I say, modest about it. But as we go, a lot of your work will be revealed. So today, this is Mental Awareness Month. I believe that as much as we prioritize physical health, we should also prioritize mental health. And the stigma or the silence surrounding mental health in our society is one of the reasons why it's not mainstreamed like physical health. And it's even way more difficult for gentlemen. I believe so. I believe that because of the system, we have a patriarchal system that demands strongness, toughness from the male gender. So, you as a person, Clement, you're a full-time student. I know that you also run other social impact organizations. You consult for not-for-profit organizations in Cameroon and beyond. And I also know that you do a lot aside from mentoring people, mobilizing for change in your community. That is a lot. And you also have a full-time undergraduate program. So I know this can be very tasking, or at least let me say it is tasking for me. How do you manage to balance it all as a person? How do you fit all those hats in your head and they don't shake?
Well, to be quite honest, sometimes it shakes. uh, it's not easy to keep the balance between schoolwork, academic, and every other thing you're trying to do. So I think at some point I'll just roll back to sometime last year. At some point I had quite a number of activities doing. Um, I had some work consulting with other non-profits. I had um, extracurricular activities on campus. So at some points it was a bit overwhelming for schoolwork. But I think what kept me going, or what I realized at that point
I'm
is,
sorry, can you? Looks like your voice was is very low, so maybe a little bit of projection.
okay. So I was saying, I think some of the things, or what has kept me going, or what has made me to carry this weight and still be able to move on despite how heavy it is probably having a vision of where I want to be. I think it's important for me to, or for young people to have sort of a view of where they would want to be in the end. Um, some of these things that you have to do to get where you want to be would be very very necessary. So I would say like last semester it was quite overwhelming for me. I'd taken on a lot of tasks and I even had to drop out for some programs because I knew that okay, if I want to get to my destination I might have to do some of these things, but not quite all of them are necessary. So I think having that priority, being able to prioritize and know that okay, this is where I want to be, it would help you to um, manage these things. So that's at least what has helped me to manage these things, manage the leadership positions that I've had and my engagements out of school combined with my academic demanding workload. So I think having basically having a fair idea of where you want to be would be quite helpful.
You're breaking up. Your audio is breaking.
You said my audio isn't coming. My audio,
Okay.
my
I have
audio.
internet issues. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but sometimes the line breaks from your end and the video loads. But I can hear you right now properly.
I can't hear you. You're muted.
I can hear you properly from my end. Can you hear me?
Clement, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you properly from my end. Can you hear me?
Huh?
Well,
You can hear me now.
yes, I can hear you.
All right. So, all right. My next question is around the conversations around mental health, how we remove the stigma. Now, as a person, as a man, be direct, do you ever feel like are supported? Do you feel comfortable sharing your emotional struggles, either with anxiety, a bit of depression, as a student, a lot of great issues, social impact issues. Do you feel comfortable to share them just because you're a man, or do you feel that as a man you are constrained from being open with your emotions?
What, speaking personally to my situation, I would say over the years I've sort of found it a bit easier to share things as I've grown to share struggles. I try to write them and put them online. So I think one of my recent posts is about how overwhelmed I have been recently. I like the entire workload and expectations from people, how overwhelming that has been. So personally, to me, I think there's some level where I share, but there are other levels where I think I feel I struggle to share. Even with even if it's with counseling or counselors, as a man I struggle to share every aspect of the things I go through. I may have one or two friends who I speak to them and they understand the depth of my or the weight I'm carrying or depth of the problem I'm going through, but I would say it is more difficult for me to just publicly share a lot of the struggles I go to. I could share one or two very deep things about me, but certainly I feel as though it's a challenge for me to share every aspect of the struggles I go through, because the society might just perceive that, oh, you're a man, you should man up, you shouldn't be crying, you shouldn't be complaining about these things, or I didn't know you were this soft, or things like that. So I think, thinking about what other people would say, or how other people would perceive you when you share very deep things, or deeper things, that you go through, it's a big barrier for me, and probably most men to open up in the society.
Thank you so much. And there is a saying that it's easier, that our society is softer to women in the aspect of dealing with mental health issues, emotional anxiety, depression, and the likes. Do you believe that? Do you subscribe to the ideology that women have it easier? And this is not a men versus women scenario. I just want to let's get in deep into a man's perspective on the issue. Do you think that women have it easier, dealing with mental health, opening up about their mental health struggles in comparison to men? And if not, what do you think as a society we can do better to remove the stigma surrounding men being able to share their emotional strengths and what they are going through, like mental health issues in general?
So let me just share a bit about my mental health journey. So I think, I currently am in Ghana schooling, studying in HSC. And when I was in Cameroon, I wouldn't particularly say I was even aware of anything called mental health. I wasn't aware of, I didn't know that there'll be something that could affect your mental capability. I will always just think of sickness as, physical, something that's going to stop you physically from doing something, or a physical disability or something of that sort. But uh, changing the environment and coming to a new location, that's when I began to sort of become aware of mental health, taking care of your mental health, and started to see the reality of what depression really is, what anxiety really is, and all of that sort. So I think one of the challenges, aside from first this divide between mental health in men and women, I think there's also this divide between, in rural communities, that's sort of not a belief, or that's there's not that belief that people can actually go through this type of crisis, a mental health crisis in poor communities. When you move, or when you change environments to sort of somewhat upper class community, you see that this is something that can actually happen to anyone. And I think, moving back to a sort of rural community setting, although it is not a norm that people can, or they do not believe that people can go through these things, I think they provide a bit more laxity or flexibility for women compared to the male counterparts, right? For them, it is fine if a woman cries, if everything is not good, if things is not going okay, but and a woman cries, or a woman can go to her mom or her parents and cry, but they don't find it they don't find it normal for a male child to, be that soft, I would say. They don't find it normal for a male child to encounter a problem and starts crying over it, or runs to their parents and start crying over it. They'll think that person is soft. The community would, I think that's the community mindset in a lot of rural or poor settings. So generally speaking, it is my opinion that the society is set up in a way that things are a lot harder for men when it comes to mental health compared to women. We all face our struggles, but I think it is a bit more difficult for men to open up regarding the struggles they are facing, compared to women open up regarding the struggles they are facing. Because sometimes men are just deterred by what would the community think of me when I voice out my opinion, or when I say this is what I'm going through, how will people react. With women, there's that worry too, but it is very likely that people would be more calming and more acceptable towards their feelings compared to men. So that's how I think things have been for me, and especially for most men from these communities.
Thank you so much. And this is very lovely because you are a man, and I believe that you're sharing from lived experiences. And I also believe that our stories are powerful. Like when we share our experience, when we come, speak our truth to power, there are people out there with similar case scenarios, and just to know that they are not alone, just to know that there is someone out there who has gone through or who is going through what they've gone through, and this solidarity helps a lot. Personally, for me here, I wouldn't say anybody have it easier. I mean, our society has the same values, the same rules, and can you still hear me? I want to make sure.
I can hear you.
Yeah, in our society we have the same values and rules, and for young people, they upset. Let me use the word obsession to do so much. It's very little time. A lot of people, young people specifically, they pile up. They have academics. Some are doing like 3 jobs. Some are running multiple projects simultaneously, and in the process of doing that, we neglect our mental health, or it takes the back seat. And it's very important to know that the mind, the body is a combination of the physical parts and the mind. And if the mind is struggling, it will definitely affect the body. For me, one of the ways that I log off when things are getting overwhelming, I just log off. I sleep, I watch a movie, I sleep. Or I go out and I meet with friends, because there's this saying, there's this pidgin saying that problem not the finish. Okay, for those who doesn't understand English, pidgin, it means that problem that never ends. So as you're solving one, another one is springing up. So as a person, you must give room, especially as a man, you must give room for to prioritize your health. And the thing is, we are in a generation, we're in a new era where change is coming, inclusion is coming in, and a lot of people are speaking up, especially on mental health from the man's perspective. And then we have a lot of men who are sharing their experiences now, who are breaking the toxic and the circle of toxic masculinity, who are in their own way smashing the patriarchy. So, and a few days ago was the International Day of the Boy Child. So, as a man who was a boy, what would you say to that? Like the attention given to the boy child. A lot of people say that the girl child gets all the attention. That on International Day of the Girl Child, we have grants that troop out, which is actually true. So, but the same courtesy is not extended to this boy, to the boy child. Do you think it's deliberate, or do you think in our society, boys or men's general thing are not given, like we don't consider the underlying factors. As a person, as you, an African, today is Africa Day. What kind of Africa do you want to see with the aspect of tackling mental health?
All right, I'll just roll back a bit. I think the aspect of sleeping and logging out is very important. That's one of the ways I also sort of deal with my stress or when I'm overwhelmed. I just close my laptop and I sleep. Although things will not be better when you wake up, at least you'd be well rested. So that's my philosophy. If something is overwhelming, just sleep, rest. When you wake up, you'd have enough strength to tackle it. And some other thing that also helped me, which is a tip that I'll dish out, is I try to write out all the things that make me feel overwhelming. I try to write out all the activities or everything that's making me feel overwhelmed, and I or making me feel anxious, and I decide, of this list, which can I control and which can I not control, which things I have control over. The things I have control over, I start working on them. The things I don't have control over, I cancel them out. So I know, I start working over the things I have control, and with time, I'll become less anxious. Now, back to your question about the Africa I see. I think I would like to see an Africa where it's united, right? An Africa where young people are driving for change. I think there's the aspects of expectations on mental health. A lot of people expect so much from both genders. A lot of people expect we cannot entirely generalize things how things are. There are families where women are the ones taking the lead. There are families where men are the ones who have to take the lead. So the concept of expectations vary per situation according to each family and according to each person. Um, my recommendation or my my thoughts for young people who are facing struggles with mental health would be just to try and seek help. I think that's the biggest challenge, right? A lot of people do not try to seek help because they're afraid that this would happen, people would reject them, especially the boys. They would be scared of talking to people because people will look down onto them. They think, they would think they are not a man or something of that sort. But just put in that effort to and take the first step to try and seek help, and it would really, really help break that barrier. And I think a lot of men also should also invest in sharing their stories, telling people about the things they are going through in digital platforms, telling the world about some of the things they are going through. Because whatever you're going through, I can almost guarantee that someone somewhere in the world is also facing that situation, is also going through that scenario. And if you share with them or you put it out there that this is what you're going through and this is what you're trying to tackle, or this is how you need help, or these are your thoughts, might inspire someone. It might give someone that last hope not to it might give someone that last hope to seek help, to speak out to. So first, having that courage, especially in young boys, to seek help is very, very important. And second, sharing that process to enlightening people about that process would really help save lives. Today's Africa Day, and my thoughts are, Africa is one of the youngest continents, if not the youngest continent in the world. And a lot of the young people are looking out to other people to provide jobs for them, other people to provide facilities and to make the way for them. I think my thoughts are for young people to start taking that duty and responsibility on themselves. Those are the way to create solutions to the problems you're facing instead of being overly dependent on the leaders you have. Right? I think we as young people should start taking action to create solutions to the problems we are facing. And in doing so, we realize that would make a fortune out of that, trying to solve problems, would lead a very fulfilling life too. So my word of advice on this day for every young African is, seek a solution to a problem you're facing instead of relying on someone to come up with that solution.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. And I want to say thank you too for sharing your experiences because we don't get to see more of that. I believe that this could be, the beginning of a positive reality into tackling mental health. The truth is, the solution will not come overnight. We are trying to build new value systems, a new ideology, new, societal norms that supports people, that supports people being vulnerable, and to not be shamed for their vulnerability. And it's going to take a while before that society is a reality. But I also believe in collective action. So a lot of us, we have to do our part. This is me doing my part. This is you doing your part by sharing your experience, and together we can create a world that we desire. So thank you so much, and thank you to everybody that joined. I apologize for the network fiasco that started. Thank you for joining Student Voice on Check. My name is Oluwadamilola Akintewe. I am your host, and see you in the next episode. Bye.
Thank you, Oluwadamilola, for being an incredible host. Bye.
Bye.